Night mode. There's something about a fire in the woods. It turns grown men into storytellers. Maybe it's the way the flames dance. Or maybe it's the sound. That slow, lazy crackle. The sharp pop when sap hits the heat. The rhythm feels like it matches your own heartbeat. Darren had been out here more times than he could count. He knew that once the fire burned low, the stories started getting taller. Not lies meant to hurt. The kind of stories that make you sound braver. The fish this big stories. The bear came within 10 feet stories. The swear to God I saw a UFO stories. This trip wasn't anything special. Just Darren, Kevin, and Nick. Mid-October. The leaves more orange than green. The air sharp and cold, smelling faintly of oak smoke drifting from miles away. They picked a small clearing, half a mile off the trail. Far enough to be alone. Close enough to find the car without getting lost. The fire was doing its job. Throwing tall shadows up the pine trees. Shadows that twitched and shifted, almost alive. Kevin poked at the logs with a stick. His headlamp flipped up on his cap, shining like a little white halo. Nick scrolled on his phone. The screen's glow made him look washed out, like a faded photograph. No signal, Nick muttered. Darren grinned. Good, that's the point, we're here to unplug. Kevin laughed. Yeah, Nick, that sound you hear? That's nature, trees breathing. Darren said nothing. He liked these quiet moments between jokes. The night pressing in, but not too close. Wind shifting high in the branches. The faint scurry of something moving through the leaves. Then, a twig snapped. He heard it, but said nothing. Out here, everything breaks a twig eventually. Nick sighed and set his phone down. Guess I'll just, he stopped, frowning at the screen. What? Darren asked. I didn't touch it, but the camera came on. Front-facing, like selfie mode. Kevin chuckled. Maybe it wants you to actually look at yourself. Nick held the phone up so they could see. The screen looked wrong. Dimmer than normal. Grainy, but sharp. The firelight looked pale. The shadows darker, too dark. Cool effect, Darren said. I didn't download anything, Nick muttered, tapping the settings. It says, Night Mode Plus, never seen that before. Darren shrugged, just a phone trick. But suddenly the firelight felt smaller. Like it pulled in tight around them. The darkness outside the circle grew heavier. Kevin started talking about football. Nick kept fiddling with his phone. Darren's eyes drifted to the tree line. For a second, he thought he saw something. A shape. Paler than the darker than the shadows around it. Taller than the brush. Kevin laughed at his own joke. Nick swore about his battery. And Darren told himself it was nothing. Just the forest playing tricks. The night went on. The fire burned lower. And somewhere in the dark, something moved with the faintest of sounds. Nick's fingers flew over the screen. He swiped through settings he'd never seen before. Look at this, he said, voice low. There's a mode called Night Mode Plus. It's not in the manual. Kevin and Darren leaned in. Nick tapped it on. The screen flickered. The firelight changed. At first, it looked the same. But then, a pale shape stood just beyond the fire's glow. Still, silent, watching. Darren's heart skipped. Did you see that? Kevin squinted. Probably smoke, or a shadow. Nick kept the camera trained on the figure. It didn't move. Then Nick looked away for a second to check the battery. When he looked back, the figure was closer. Closer than before. Closer than it should have been. Darren swallowed hard. This isn't right. Maybe it only moves when we're not looking, Kevin whispered. Nick aimed the camera back. The figure froze. Darren's breath hitched. Don't look away. But the battery was draining fast. 10%, 8. Outside the firelight, the pale waited. And they knew. They moved whenever the camera looked away. There was no way to watch all of them at once. The night was closing in. And the pale were coming closer. The fire was almost out. The night had grown colder. Darren gripped the phone tight. The screen glowed weakly. 5%, Nick whispered. Kevin's face was pale in the fading firelight. No signal, no help. Outside the circle, the darkness pressed in. The pale were there. Waiting. Darren kept the camera on the nearest figure. The pale creature stood perfectly still. But Darren couldn't watch everywhere at once. When he shifted the phone, other shapes appeared. Closer, watching, waiting. Battery's almost dead, Darren said. His voice trembled. Kevin reached for his phone. But it was dead. No, Nick said, eyes wide. They don't just move when the camera is off. They move when it's not on them. Darren swallowed. The pail circled. The fire flickered and slowly died out. Darkness swallowed everything. And then, nothing. Days later, a new group of campers found a phone lying by the trail. The screen lit up bright and clear. Battery at 100%. No calls, no messages. Just one app, labeled Night Mode Plus. They pressed the icon. And the pail waited.
Thank you for hanging around until the end of our tale. Every view is appreciated. If you have enjoyed it, please hit that like button and considering commenting and subscribing.